Okay, we're sorting some cheeses that we're getting ready to send out to Minnesota. Didn't exactly turn out according to plan. This is how they arrived at Eureka, a little melted. Hey, it's Alissa, and I'm checking in with another update. I think the birds have a lot to say today too. But yeah, just wanted to fill you in on what's going on with the business. One thing I wanted to mention, every week I've been giving an update, and so each update kind of builds on the other updates. So I've created a playlist where I've put all the updates together, because I think in building a business, or really with building anything, I think the best outcomes come from like small but consistent efforts over time. And so I think putting them all together like this will be an interesting testimony over time, over like a year, especially for people who are wanting to get into business, because it can seem really daunting and overwhelming, and really nobody has all the answers when they start out. You know, it's really about small, consistent efforts over time. So I hope that this playlist can be like inspirational for someone. But when you go to my website, so go to AsianOreoPrincess.com and click on YouTube, and there's like a number of playlists, and there's one, you know, for my gardening project that I'm doing with my mom. There's one for the business playlists. But I think if you're interested in business and you want to know more about how things unfold, it doesn't all happen just in one foul magic swoop. I mean, that's kind of what people hear about, you know, in the press when you have a big success, but really a lot of it is not as glamorous as that. So I'm just kind of giving like a real life view of what it looks like. So there's that. There's this playlist. There've been a lot of developments leading up to where we are now. I talked about in some of the previous episodes just kind of releasing the trauma of what happened with Punk Rock Labs, and trying to build on a stronger foundation, aligning the business structure with that, so that I can actually spend effort on the cheese, and instead of swimming upstream against, I mean, basically we just didn't have the right business structure from the get-go, and that was what held us back. So, I mean, it's easier to have an objective perspective about this when you're, you know, removed from it, but at the time it was really painful. So moving on, I just want to talk about the cheese and how you can get it. I've been getting a lot more requests. I actually got a shout out from my very first store, which is in the East Village of New York City. This first store to carry my cheese, Live Live and Organic. You should definitely check them out and support them. They've been doing great things for a really long time. And, you know, a lot of raw food businesses in New York have risen and fallen, and they've just remained steady over all this time. And they were my very first store. And I did hear from them this week, so I want to do a shout out for them, Live Live and Organic in New York City. And I also want to talk about just getting the cheese out to people. So I've been elaborating a lot about the difficulty of shipping, and particularly at this time of year. I actually had a mishap with that this week where I lost a lot of cheese, and it's very expensive each time that happens. So I'm trying to be very cautious with that, but I really want to make an effort to make sure everyone who has contributed to this campaign has the opportunity to get some of the cheese. I'm going around now, and I'm starting down the list, and starting with the people who have donated $100 or more, because it costs $50 just to ship the cheese. So I'm going to start there. So I'm going down the list one by one, and I'm starting with people in the Midwest, because that's where I've had the most success with shipping. So if you are in the Midwest and you've donated $100 or more, expect to hear from me. Some of you, I'm not aware where you are, but if you're in the Midwest, please ping me, and I'll put you on the list, because until the weather cools down, I'm probably not going to be shipping to the East Coast, the West Coast, or any of the southern states, because it's going to be a wasted effort. So there's that. And I wanted to also mention that I'm working on doing some partnerships with people, for people who've donated less than $100. I want to do partnerships in local areas with other chefs and other people, where I can maybe send like a quantity batch, just to save on shipping, because it's not financially viable to to send the boxes. So I'm working on that, and I will keep you posted. I have reached out to some people already. There was cheese that got lost this week for some of that. But I'm working on that, and I will keep you posted in future updates. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about how the scaling efforts were going. As I mentioned, I don't want to repeat the business model that I had with Punk Rock Labs, because it was not a financially viable model. The cheese was a very big success, but the business aspects and how we ran the business were not. So we want to learn from that and move forward. And I did talk about that in earlier videos. So in week 4, I talked about, what specifically went wrong with Punk Rock Labs. In week 5, I talked about the science behind the cheese and the fermentation and why that's so important. In week 6, I talked about a more viable business structure moving forward. So you could go back and look at the playlist if these are topics that are of interest, or I'm just trying to be as transparent as possible. But some exciting developments for this week, because I am working on scaling the cheese and partnering with other more experienced business people on that effort. And there's a really big conference this week, Future Food Tech Conference, that I'm going to be participating in. I do have several meetings with investors this week, so we'll see how that goes. Wish me luck, and I will keep you posted on how that unfolds. And then finally, I mentioned I've been working on this gardening project with my mom, and I'm starting to do videos on the new wellness platform that I'm building. I'm starting to do videos around gardening, and then I want to start building in recipes that I'm drawing from the garden, just as an inspiration to kind of be in alignment with a wellness-oriented lifestyle, because this is something I'm really passionate about. So all of this information that I'm sort of spinning on it's accessible on my website, which is AsianWarriorPrincess.com. The YouTube link will lead you to all these playlists that I mentioned, and then you can also click on Cheese 2.0 to donate to the campaign and support the relaunch of the cheese. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. I hope to have some more exciting updates for you next week. Not every week is as glamorous, but they're all important. So I hope over the course of a year to have a really helpful testimony for others who are wanting to follow their passions and start businesses, because I think it's important. It's an important thing to do, and part of creating a better world for the future. So I'll leave you on that thought, and we'll check in next week. This turtle is just hanging out on the driveway. He's being kind of shy. Hey, Mr. Turtle, I don't want to run you over. What's crazy is this turtle appeared on my driveway right after I finished recording the message, like it was confirming that I'm on the right track. Slow and steady wins the race.